Namaste everyone. Thank you for watching this recording. We could not have the Kala Sarpa class live yesterday, that is on the 3rd of December, because of some internet issues that I was facing. So I'll be doing this live today, okay? And you can watch the recording, of course. It'll be it'll be available on Monday, okay? So anyways, let's begin the class as we always do with the Shanti mantra from the Upanishads, okay? ॐ सहन भवतु सहनो भुनकतु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनादधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 okay. So in the last class, we had covered till the last class, that is, we had covered all the yogas that are brought about by Kalasarpa, and we also had a good look at all the yogas that are amplified by this condition, and also the yogas that are, you know, that are de-amplified, or rather that are, you know, that are powered off by this condition. Okay, so now we'll be looking at Rahu and Ketu in the houses. Okay, and we'll be studying the 12 types of Nagas with respect to the Kala Sarpa patterns. Okay, so we have in the previous classes we had covered as to how, you know, the individual characteristics of the 12 Nagas, they correlate with the themes of the bhavas. Okay, for example, Vasuki is associated with the third house of courage. That means when Rahu is in the third and Ketu is in the ninth. Padma is associated with the fifth house of Tantra and Mantra. Takshaka is associated with the seventh house of war, and so on. Okay, so today we'll be looking at a description of each of the Nagas, and it can be seen as a proxy for Rahu in the 12 bhavas. Okay, especially when it forms a Kala Sarpa with the planets moving towards Rahu. That means for the Anuloma type Kala Sarpa pattern. Okay, so Rahu in the first house, Ketu in the seventh house. The snake associated with this formation is Ananta. Okay, and Ananta in Kala Sarpa is said to be short-tempered. Okay, impatient and difficult to satisfy. So as a result, partnerships and alliances, they become frustrating and very imbalanced. Okay, it's just like, you know, someone coming into a relationship and telling you it's my way or the highway. Okay, and Ananta often focuses on physical or mental growth, you know, education and issues around artha. Okay, artha means economics. Okay, in simple terms it means wealth, economic security. Okay, reliability, stability, all these, you know, all these issues are become prominent for, you know, for people having Rahu in the first house and Ketu in the seventh house. Okay, and the native may have a unique physicality with an aura of vitality. Okay, the native will have the ability to control and channel the body's musculature in an athletic or aesthetic manner. That is the reason some, you know, very capable athletes are born with this combination. Okay, and primal in his raw power, the native may act in a very aggressive or threatening manner. Okay, and it makes the native very bold and fearless, but as a consequence, you know, sometimes people can behave in a very foolhardy manner. Okay, and because of that they may become prone to accidents, you know, head injuries, concentrations, lawsuits, and so on. Okay, so this is Rahu in the first house, which is known as Ananta. All right, then we have Rahu in the second house, which of course is known as Kulika. So the second house is the house of speech. Okay, so Kulika in the Kalasarpa pattern is considered to be a talking head. Okay, and who has lost control of the tongue, and therefore it either lies or speaks harshly. Okay, so this thing is amplified if Mercury is aspecting Rahu in the second house. All right, and Kulika has the power to channel or manipulate language, voice, or song. Okay, and there is a great focus on food and sustenance, conflict management, disease, family, finance, and speech. And usually the native is a very charismatic or flamboyant speaker or singer. Okay. And sometimes, the speech may become bombastic, and that can, that can make the native feel very guilty at times. Okay. The native may also have exotic tastes in food or drink, and he or she will be very much capable of savoring or digesting things that the average person would, would be wary of, would be shunned. Okay. So I have this pattern in my second house, and as a child, I was very fond of having mud. Yes, my mom was disgusted by this, by this habit, but I was very fond of having mud. And even if you give me mud now, I'll still have it. Okay, I've still, I've still not yet lost the taste, then lost the taste, that is. All right. Now the native may appear to be arrogant or rude in speech, but this happens if Mars gets, is aspecting Rahu, and can hurt the feelings of family members. Okay. And sometimes rash commitments can cost money. Okay. Again, this has been my case as well. I have sometimes made commitments that I have not been able to keep, for which, I have had to spend some amount of money from my pocket to, to as damages. Okay. So then Rahu in the third, this pattern of Kala Sarpa is called Vasuki. And Vasuki may be imagined of as a twister or a churner, capable of twisting or spinning a story. Okay. And Vasuki is a gifted communicator and interpreter who can manipulate explanations and instructions for his own purposes. Okay. And these people are highly focused on career, education through experience, social networking because of, of the third house matter, and also travel. Okay, because third house stands for short distance travel. So these natives may focus on travel as a means of exploring the world. Okay. And it can be great for a salesperson to have this combination, because it makes you appear very charismatic and convincing for your clients. Okay. But then these people are very opportunistic as business people. Okay. And they usually hype their, they usually mask their business intentions in the garb of marketing. Okay. And the native may use hand gestures to make a point, but the message that he or she offers may be open to misinterpretation. Okay. This is a combination where there may be a lack of support for from siblings, and the native, sometimes this combination may also prove unlucky for the livelihood of the native. Okay. And sometimes, business problems may come up, and losses may also come up through partnerships. Okay. Then we have Rahu in the fourth house, which is of course called Shankapala. Okay. So Shankapala in Kala Sarpa, it suggests a Naga with a strong nesting instinct, often establishing ethnic boundaries of some kind or another. Okay. Sometimes reinforced by religious ceremony or ritualistic puja. Okay. So, it's like being very protective about the family. Okay. Being very protective about one's loved ones. Okay. Very protective about loved ones. So the focus will be on mental health and happiness or sukha, which is realized through various forms of security. For example, the native may insist upon having a very solid academic education as a foundation for one's career. Okay. Physical, as that may also, such education may also serve as foundation for family roots or the physical home. Okay. And the native can be a homeowner. Okay. It can be a landholder, or even a patriot. Okay. That means he or she can be a, be a big lover of for the country. All right. And security comes in the form of property or vehicles. Okay. And despite an obsession with fences and borders, the native will usually experience problems with property, vehicles, countrymen, or his own mother. Okay. And these people, they may be at war within themselves or with authority figures. And for example, in a conflict, that is sometimes reflected via physical symptoms in the chest. Okay. So if you have this combination, be very careful when, when when your natal sun, when your transit sun goes through the fourth house of your natal horoscope, because that can, that can all of a sudden cause a heart attack. Okay. So be very careful with Shankapala. All right. Then we have Rahu in the fifth house, which is referred to as Padma. So Padma evokes the image of a bright red spot on an elephant's skin, and it is very symbolic of Padma's ability to display intelligence in a charming and dramatic manner. Okay, so these are very, because it is involved in the fifth house. So Padma is a gifted entertainer, but also a court jester. Okay, so these people, they often offer wisdom that is only fabricated and not true knowledge. All right, and there is often a focus on children, creativity, insight, research, strategy, writing, and a generally high value placed on analysis, assessment, and judgment. Okay, and people like motivational speakers like Tommy Robbins, okay, or charismatic teachers, or modern day gurus. Okay, so they are all seen from this combination. So these are people who are not true teachers of Vidya, but a motivational entertainer whose message has greater appeal to the materialistic side of modern society. Often the YouTubers whose videos are like shit, but they still have a lot of followers, they have a huge fan following. So this is actually Rahu in the fifth house as Padma. Okay, and sometimes the native may rely more on intuition rather than analysis, and as such, he or she can suffer losses in romance, speculation, and or investment. Okay, now Rahu in the sixth house, this is known as Mahapadma. Okay, so Mahapadma is like a mercenary. Okay, because Rahu in the sixth house, it gives you a lot of skill to overcome your enemies, but it also gives you terrible enemies. Okay, so Mahapadma is like a mercenary, as I said, who is constantly available to guard something valuable or to ensure security of some kind, whether physical, environmental, financial, or legal. Okay, and under such circumstances, Mahapadma is very is an expert at controlling and manipulating unbalanced situations that can tilt either way. Okay, there is often a focus on accidents, conflict management, health, illness, injuries, opposition, and physical challenges of every kind. Okay, and a native can be a positive influence in situations where people's security is threatened. Okay, for example, a medical specialist, or maybe a police or military officer. Okay, an environmental activist, a legal expert, and so on. All right, so but then if this Rahu is afflicted by or from aspects by Saturn or Mars, then such natives could easily become exploitative towards others through the same channels. Okay, for example, blackmail and extortion under the threat of violence, sale of drugs to who are ill or addicted. Okay, and unfair unemployment practices, threat of litigation, and so on. Okay, and these people, they can usually be successful, but they often pay a price for their success. They struggle against constant competition, or they have to reside far away from home with consequent family stress. Okay, so just let me take a break for a couple of minutes. We'll resume with Rahu in the seventh house, which is of course Takshaka. Okay. So we come to the seventh type of Kala Sarpa, which is Rahu in the seventh house. Okay, and this is known as Takshaka. All right. Now you can imagine Takshaka to be a serpent. Sorry, to be a carpenter. Okay, an architect of sorts, or a builder of alliances, who has a tendency, to make promises and then manipulate contracts to gain maximum pleasure or benefit for himself or herself. Okay, and by the same narrative, he is capable of inducing, by bribery or obligation, others to cooperate with him. Okay, and there is often a focus on partnership. Okay, including marital as well as mundane, on independent business, foreigners, and foreign things in general. Okay, and the native can be opportunistic in making expedient agreements to further his ambitions, whether personal or mundane. Okay, and because the seventh house rules the genitalia, the native will have inherent sexual charisma. Okay, he or she can be appear to be very, convincing, persuasive, and seductive in building relationships with people who are sexually, socially, or materially attractive. Okay, and the native may suffer from physical or psychological irregularities. Okay, ranging from disproportionate limbs to disorders of the nervous system. Okay. Now in the eighth house, Rahu's presence is known as Karkotaka. Okay. So Karkotaka is can be regarded as a very transformative agent. Okay. And it is the name of an indigenous fruit. Okay. Momodissa mixta. Okay. It is very poisonous in its natural state, but it can be turned into a medicine. Okay. And it is this fruit is literally a kill or cure substance which is rendered useful by a knowledgeable healer who can turn trauma into recovery. uh, because the eighth house is the house of Mangalya, so there is a focus on marital harmony or even lack of marital harmony if Rahu is afflicted. Okay, scandals, trauma, and then other people's money in the form of inheritances and legacies. Okay, the native can be a specialist in some form of disaster relief. Okay, whether in the form of surgery or other medical treatment, criminal or financial investigation, forensic accounting, or tax loopholes. Okay, or even psychological intervention for post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, the problems may revolve around family matters and finances, including problems from in-laws. Okay, as well as unanticipated complications arising from accidents. Okay, then Rahu in the ninth house. This pattern of Kala Sarpa is known as Shankachura. So Shankachura is can be thought of as a whip or a goad, you know, capable of driving horses to speed or urging troops into battle. Okay, and convinced of the rightness of his cause, Shankachura is capable of inspiring others into action, even if he promotes a cause which is anti-ethical to dharma. Okay, you know, Rahu in the ninth house with this pattern of Kala Sarpa with Rahu in the ninth house, it can actually make people promote some parallel religions. Okay, and there is a focus on there is a focus on long distance travel or foreign travel. Okay, and then there could be sibling rivalry for paternal recognition, unique ways of doing things, and unconventionality. Okay, in a general sense of the term. uh, it's an ideal condition for preachers, for professors, or for politicians who uses a religious or philosophical doctrine to promote himself or herself in the name of a religious cause. Okay, so if a politician comes with this condition or in this with this placement, then he or she will have the capacity to channel the aspirations of people and whip the masses into a religious or political fervor. Okay, he may be obliged to endure frequent changes of fortune, including interruptions to higher education, because the ninth house is the house of higher education and Rahu represents breakage. Okay, and it also can cause legal complications or problems from such complications. Okay, then people with Kala Sarpa having Rahu in the 10th house, this pattern is known as Pataka or Ghataka. Okay, so Pataka, you know it may be thought of as a pot or a water jar containing something vital for life. Okay, it is associated with skilled accomplishment. Okay, maybe you can imagine it as a tree that produces fruit without flowers. Someone who negotiates alliances. Okay, it also stands for a unit of time. Okay, so another meaning lies in the verb path. Okay, so path means to fall, or it can also imply loss of social status. Okay, and although these things can happen out of the blue, usually it is deserved for a reason. Okay, and maybe why this happens is because as a native, he or she may be too focused on career, on fame, on reputation and pride. Okay, and focusing too much on on these things. Okay, career, fame, reputation and pride, it can derive a native of his material and emotional relationship with material things. Okay, so it can leave you all without happiness, all without sukha. Okay, and such a native experiences loss of face in the eyes of others, but also personal shame for his loss. Okay, and there is often a focus on achieving happiness through career, fame and reputation, either by augmenting or maintaining one's position in the society. Okay, and the native may have a gift for governance and executive leadership, sometimes with inflated authority. Okay, and there is a great urge or a great desire to get things done in time, and he or she is likely to be very impatient. Okay, capable of crashing barriers to achieve his or her ambitions. Okay, sometimes the problems may be like irregularities regarding professional livelihood. Okay, and suffering, due to reversal of due to reversal of respect with regards to social status. Okay, sometimes such a native may be born with a very high social status, but then may lose all of it because of his you know of his selfishness. Okay, and that is true even for for loss of happiness. Okay, now Rahu in the 11th house, the serpent associated with this pattern is Vishadhara. So Vishadhara means a poison pill, but it is more in a monetary context. Okay, because many financial deals or economic reforms, they involve some some sacrifice, which are at times necessary, and at times those sacrifices, they come with a lot of repercussions. Okay, and the native is likely to induce others economic participation through some sort of fork tongue deception to his benefit rather than theirs. Okay, there is often a focus on creating an easy flow of income through investment and speculation. Okay, or the native may indulge in fulfilling his or her dreams and goals through participation in associations, clubs, and social networks. Okay, the native can be a charismatic and convincing promoter of schemes designed to engage a network of business interests. Okay, such a native may be adept at marketing his wares to social climbers who seek honors, income, office, or prestige. Okay, and despite the surreptitious nature of his deals, the native generally profits while his associates aren't always so fortunate. Okay, sometimes the native may experience unanticipated fluctuations in cash flow, okay, the favor of social networks, and then the realization of his own hopes and dreams. Okay. Uh, Next, we have Rahu in the 12th house, which is known as Adisesha. So, Adisesha may be imagined as a soul survivor. Okay, soul survivor, you survivor on an Atma level. Okay, and it refers to an entity which is both original and eternal because, it escapes destruction in order to participate in another cycle of birth, life, and death. Okay, and Adisesha is associated with moksha and the bridge between the physical and astral planes, between reality and imagination. Okay, there is often a focus on managing expenses, debts, and loans, and you know the native may deal with issues arising from segregation, isolation, and solitude. All right. Now, the native can be a charismatic weaver of divination, dreams, imaginary worlds, and psychic phenomena. Okay. And generally, uh, these people, they work from a place of sanctuary. Okay. Maybe bedroom, retreat, or even, trance like states. We've seen how some crystal ball readers work from a trance-like state. Yes, and these people, they are very much capable of channeling imagery from from unseen worlds. Okay, and these people, they can be very private, very sexual, and sometimes these people feel that they need to break taboos in order to perceive the wheel of reality and see the other side of things. Okay, sometimes these people, they may experience a chronic restlessness of body or mind, and they may face problems in foreign places or through addictions of some kind. Okay. Now we will be looking at some guidelines for interpreting Kala Sarpa in the houses. Okay. So as we have seen thus far, Rahu and Ketu, they are the poles of an energetic field, and they have the power to utilize everything that comes within that field. Okay. They harness the energy of other planets within the context of the houses they occupy, and the nodal pair invokes the notion of electromagnetism. Okay, and anyone who has studied a bit of physics will know that there is an unseen field operating at the atomic level of matter, which is capable of influencing at a distance. Okay, now at the same time, Rahu and Ketu are called malefics by Parashara. Okay, so why they are malefics? Because they have a primal energy that may be dangerous for the uninitiated to handle, and the comparison to electricity is inevitable. Okay, you know K2 especially, it is often compared with electricity. All right, and why electricity? Because if you come into contact with an open circuit of sufficient current and voltage, the results can be fatal. So like the poles of a magnet, Rahu and Ketu, they occupy two different places. So the inevitable influence of the nodes is that one feels divided, yes, pulled in two different directions. Okay, and breaking away in one form or another is the basic nature of the Rahu Ketu experience. Okay, so while interpreting the nodal placements as astrologers, it is very important to keep in mind the general attributes of the two opposing houses involved. Okay, and the presence of Rahu in any house will inevitably create a locus of power, passion, and obsession. Okay, and the presence of Ketu in the opposite house, it may reveal a power vacuum. Okay, and that causes surrender, apathy, and detachment. Okay, and if they go hand in hand, if you put them hand in hand, these nodes, they identify opportunities matched by challenges arising from themes mapped out by opposing houses. Okay, so what we'll do is, as we in the next class, we will interpret Kala Sarpa through the houses. Okay, and these interpretations will rest on the basic principle that Rahu and Ketu are polar opposites. Okay, they are the yin and yang of the horoscope, representing alternating currents of altitude of attitude, activity, as well as circumstances in the life of a native. Okay. So that's it from me in this class. I'll see you next Saturday for the live class. Those who join it live, and for those who watch the recordings, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Om Gurave Namaha.